All right, I don't have a real order for this, so I'm going to talk about the Clippers. I'm sorry, Clippers fans. Um, that's that's how we're going to start this. I'm really concerned about this team. I'm not going to fall into the trap of thinking that we're going to get Houston James Harden again. I feel like we've said it every year since he got traded from Houston that this is the time when he's going to come back and be his former self. Every year that passes is just another year where he's older and his first step gets a little slower and his body just gets a little more worn down. I don't think it's gonna happen. I think he's gonna be good. Like I think he'll be one of the better starting point guards in the league. But I mean this team is just ugly for for what went down in 2019 and the expectations and the hopes and the investment from specifically Steve Ballmer into this team, new stadium. I mean, it is just a gross roster. And I'm scared. I think this team could miss the playoffs. Truly. I don't think James Harden has it in him to be that Houston version of himself anymore where he can drag decent, potentially starting level uh, players to the playoffs and like to contention. He's past that. He's past that point. I don't trust Kawhi Leonard's health. I wish he were healthy. There is there are a few things that I would desire more in the NBA than for Kawhi Leonard to be healthy because I think everyone would agree that the league is just better when Kawhi Leonard is healthy and the teams that he is on is able to compete because he's on the floor. But just a random unannounced procedure on his knee over the summer doesn't bode well for the start of the season. He will more than likely miss 20 to 30 games, maybe more. And then all of a sudden, it's the James Harden show, running pick and roll with Ivica Zubac every other play, and Norman Powell chucking up threes. This isn't good. With the control that they have over their first round picks, which is they don't have control over their picks, this isn't good. They have nothing to move. They have no assets to build a trade, and they have no incentive for losing. In fact, they have a real fire pushing them towards not losing because if they lose, then they don't benefit from it. Oklahoma City does, and they don't need any more help. They've got what they they've got what they need. This just doesn't look good for the Clippers, and I feel terrible for the Clippers fan base because on paper the last 5 years should have been Miami Heatles esque. At the very least, it should have been Golden State esque. But man, health sucks. Injuries suck, and I don't know how reliable Paul George is, but I think it would have been a little shocking if he had stayed because of the way that this team has been able to perform and the unreliability of Kawhi, specifically in the playoffs, and the addition of James Harden costing a ton of depth, and the investment in James Harden, but not in Paul George. I don't know. I don't love it. I just don't love it. I think we could see a decent year from a guy like Terrence Mann, but Derrick Jones Jr. just isn't going to make up for what Paul George was bringing it. I mean, I think he had a career year shooting the three ball in Dallas last year, but maybe he didn't. I could be completely wrong on that. But he's not going to solve the problem. Chris Dunn isn't going to solve the problem. Kevin Porter Jr. is not going to solve the problem. I am just very, very concerned about what the heck this team is going to do. I don't see a world where they make it out of the play-in. When you consider Oklahoma City, Denver, Dallas, Minnesota, New Orleans, Phoenix. That's already, that's already 6 teams in the West. Not to mention the Lakers, who are going to try to be better. The Kings, who made moves to get better. The Rockets, who are probably going to improve a lot internally. The Grizzlies, who will be back at full strength, making a push to get out of the play-in. This team just doesn't have it. They don't have the pieces to contend in a West this loaded. And that's a scary thought for Clippers fans who want to contend, who want their team to be in the playoffs, to have postseason success. I don't see a world. Unless Kawhi Leonard plays every game and has an MVP candidacy season, and James Harden looks like he did when he was in Houston, every domino needs to fall perfectly for this team, honestly, to miss the play-in, to make it out of the play-in and be a top 6 seed. Otherwise, I think they're out. It sucks. I don't really have a whole lot else to say. It's hard to compliment them on a pickup like Derrick Jones Jr. when they did it as, making up for losing Paul George. Just give him the money, dude. Give him the no trade clause. Whatever. You should have done everything in your power to keep him. And I think Steve Ballmer has done everything that he could to keep this team in contention up until that point. I'm honestly just shocked that the no trade clause is what caused it to fall through, or a lack of giving him another year on that contract, because everything's committed already. You're already committed. All of your draft assets, all of your money was already in this core, and he walked for nothing. That's just bad. That's like malpractice in the NBA these days. You can't let a star player leave for nothing. Overpay him. You overpaid for James Harden. Overpay for Paul George. You gotta. You absolutely have to. Because this team is going to be potentially a bottom feeder. I mean, their 2 best players are old. They're injury prone, probably. And oh my goodness, I just can't imagine the lineups without these guys there. And it'll be Chris Dunn, Terrence Mann, Derrick Jones Jr., Nick Batum, and Zubats. Does that sound like a playoff team? That sounds like worse than the Pistons. Sorry, Detroit. We'll talk about you another day. Oh. It's not good. I'm sorry, Clippers fans, it's not good.